Good morning, everyone, and welcome to BizNet Software's webinar, Wrap Up Your Year-End Reports Today. My name is Floyd Stanley. I'm the Partner Enablement Manager by title at BizNet Software, but by function, I'm kind of a technical marketing guy, and my email address is also listed here for you to see. We'll spend, probably about 45 minutes this morning just talking about some of the issues involved in year-end reporting and hopefully some of the ideas on how to resolve those issues. The session is being recorded and it will be posted hopefully later this afternoon, no later than tomorrow at least. And also want to spend some time with questions and answers. So during the presentation, if you have a question, please use the chat function in the GoToWebinar tool panel, and I'll see if we can answer those. So again, welcome. Today's agenda, in keeping with the theme of the season, is to talk about how BizNet Software, BizInsight and BizBroadcast can help you in terms of overcoming the challenges of generating your year-end reports. We'll analyze the business problem, or at least try to address it. We'll do quite a bit of demonstration and then come back to some key points and questions and answers. But to begin, I'd like to share a little, hopefully, bit of fun. We recently attended the Accountex trade show in Las Vegas and wanted to do something a little bit different. And the idea was, can Excel reporting be fun? And so, let's see if it can. While this slide is on the screen, and just to give you some time to watch it, I'd also like to get a better understanding of who you folks are. I recognize a number of the names of our attendees today, but I also like to ask some questions of you, and it helps me do a better job, hopefully. And so, first of all, let's just ask, do you currently use BizNet Software products? We make BizInsight, which is our reporting and analysis tool. And we also make Biz Broadcast, which is our automated reporting mechanism. So our votes are coming in. All of you have voted. Let's share this poll. And you can see that 2/3 of you don't use BizNet Software currently. About, a little under 20% used it either weekly or monthly. So that helps set the stage. What we do, getting back to our slide, is that we make your spreadsheets come alive. And you say, well, wait a minute, I have all kinds of systems that help me do my reporting. And we've done studies with our customers that, they have as many as 7, 8 different systems that they use to manage their business on a daily basis. What we've also found, however, is that almost all of those numbers eventually come back to Excel in terms of either doing routine analysis or creating their recurring reports. Almost all those numbers come back to Excel, whether they come from CRM or from sales data, document management now. We have interfaces so that supporting documentation can also be returned as a drill down within your spreadsheets. What do we do for you? We help you save time. You can create your reports faster. You can take back the time you lost cutting and pasting and doing static manual processes, and you can use it to analyze your business. And as a result, if things work at all right, you can make better decisions. You can spend more time analyzing the numbers, you can trust those numbers, and you can drill down on any cell. And with that, one more poll, please, because this will help me share create an appropriate narrative for today, and that is, what is your biggest year-end reporting challenge? And we'll see if we can answer your responses to that here in just a moment. So again, your biggest year-end reporting challenge. And I do appreciate your participation. First of all, it helps us learn what people within the marketplace are doing, and it also, as I said, helps us shape the presentation. I'm going to close this and share the results with you, and about 1/3 of you say checking for errors, and I can understand how that's absolutely critical when you're talking about year-end reports. About 17% say just keeping track of all of the multiple versions of the same file, and then half of you say pulling all the numbers together. As I had mentioned, a number of you are no doubt using multiple systems to generate your reports. So let's see if we can provide some examples of how BizNet Software products can help you with this process. This probably looks at least somewhat familiar. It's a very, very simple income statement, just talking about our revenue accounts and our cost of sales accounts, and trying to get a quick look at our gross profit. And it's spread out over all 12 months. But the issue is, as you look here in the formula bar, all of these numbers are static. They might as well have been just copied and pasted into this report. And the problem with that is it gets back to, are these numbers right? Has there been some formatting error? Has there been some formula error? Where did these numbers come from, and what are the details behind these numbers? But what if, instead of having to deal with static numbers, you could deal with a truly interactive environment? I'll go ahead and expand this so it is somewhat better. And this gets into the issue of pulling numbers together from multiple sources. This product is called BizInsight. It is an add-in to Microsoft Excel. And the version that I am using here is soon to be available as a free trial download at BizNetSoftware.com. And it includes connectors to sample data, including Planet Football, just to show that multiple different kinds of numbers can be massaged with BizInsight, but then also balances and budgets, customers, invoice data, sales order data, which vendors we're buying which products from, purchase order detail, what's in the warehouse. So it starts with a direct connection to your data, so that instead of having to scamper about and try to pull numbers together from different sources, BizInsight provides the connection to that data for you. It also makes that data absolutely dynamic and your reports dynamic. As of now, you can see that we have actual numbers through the end of April, and then we're comparing our budget for the upcoming months, and we see our total year-to-date numbers that are also interactive. But what happens when April becomes May? And you can see a dynamic update of this run rate forecast, or whenever May becomes December, since we are indeed talking about year-end reports. Okay, so how did this happen? Again, this happens because BizInsight creates direct connectors to your data. We make out-of-the-box systems for a number of different ERPs, including Intact and Applicore and Epicor 10 in the cloud space, Blackbaud NXT as well in the cloud space, and then also on-premises systems that still run on local databases, such as Sage 500 and Sage 100, SysPro, Dynamics GP and Dynamics SL, SAP Business One, a number of different systems. And we make direct connections to those systems because we've been in the business for a while and have learned the intricacies of how those tables come together. But what if you're in an environment where those connections don't currently exist? What if you're doing your budgets in a system that's not part of your standard ERP, or in Excel spreadsheets? BizInsight not only connects to all those numbers, but also allows you to connect to any source of data that can be brought into Excel. I'm using Office 365, so this is Excel 2016, and within Excel 2016, and then as an add-in for previous versions of Excel, going back to 2010, is the opportunity to query data from external sources. In Excel 2016, it's called Get and Transform. In 2013 and 2010, it was an add-in called Power Query. And what this allows you to do is bring information from files, from databases, from the cloud, from the Azure cloud, from other data sources, from the web, from SharePoint, yeah, even from Facebook. That's pretty amazing. but from Salesforce objects, from Salesforce reports, it allows you to merge, append queries from different sources, and any data that you can bring into Excel can be leveraged with BizInsight 7 because it provides an opportunity to select data. You can select a range of cells, you can select an existing range name, and you can see that there are a number of ranges already within this workbook, or you can select an existing table. So if you can bring your information into Excel, as you no doubt do now, then you can use it with BizInsight and ultimately with BizBroadcast. So how does all of this come together? It is a matter of lists and functions. And so I've heard stories that some people lose their data, because it certainly happens to me sometimes. And so right now I have essentially a blank sheet of paper. And it's a simple example, but we'll relate this to year-end reports here in just a moment. So if I want to know just my average sale by customer, or my total sale by customer, or more important, my margin by customer, how do I go about doing that? Well, it starts with a list of your customers. And within BizInsight, we provide a menu-driven query editor. And it starts by asking, where is your data? This data is in a table, and you can see that we have a source of data called BizNet Sample Data and Excel. It's in the BizNet Sample Data. Which data set? It is in a list of customers. I want the results returned as a table, and since I have a separate customer list, I don't have to worry about removing duplicates, but just to show you that is possible, and this list just has 2 columns. I want to include the column headers, and I want to fill down formulas in adjacent cells. Really pretty simple, but here comes a list of my customers. And you noticed that all of these total sales numbers automatically updated. Now, how is this possible? 2 reasons. The first of which, if I go back to that query editor, it said fill down formulas in adjacent cells. And those of you who deal with external data in Excel have seen that in terms of the data range properties. It says to save the query definition, and you would also have the option of filling down formulas in columns adjacent to data. We just provided that additional setting in an easier way, or at least hopefully an easier way. The second thing is that we use the same query editor, but this time we want to create a function. Again, our data is in the sample data set. It's in sales order data. But you can see that the query editor understands all of the data sources that are available within this sample data set. We want the table of sales order data. We want a sum, but we can get minimums, maximums, averages, a good old-fashioned comma-separated value, and there are still reasons to use that, particularly to ship information from one system to another, counts, standard deviations, and variances. What information do I want returned? I want, first of all, the amount, because that's simply what we're doing. I want to add a filter, And again, no coding required for this. Transaction date is greater than or equal to February 1 of 2015. My transaction date is less than or equal to February 28th, and my customer is equal to Aldebaran. I do a cell reference, and instead of having that fully fixed, I want to reference only the column. I select OK, and of course I put it in the wrong place. But let's watch this. What I want to do is just refresh that table, and that's available to me. And you can also see that my function is also reconstructed. Now, okay, so that's a total. Well, what about an average? Well, I actually do some of my best work when I copy and paste. And the reason for it this time is that instead of getting a sum of the amount, I want to get an average of the amount. I want to place it in my average column. I can paste again, query data. Instead of getting a sum of the amount, I want a sum of the gross margin. I select OK and overwrite the expression. And now all I have to do is an Excel flash fill to get all of those numbers. And when it comes to year end, all I have to do is update to year end. It would help if I had data for all 12 months, but at least I have it for 10. That simple process can be used with any recurring report. Now, a number of you, though, said, wait a minute, I have an issue with checking for accuracy. And I absolutely understand that. And so BizInsight allows you to drill down to either a table or a pivot or a super table. So I can create a pivot really quickly, and I have all of the Excel functionality that you're accustomed to. And we can see that Vincent La Palma is the only person who sold anything to Fountain Florist. Now, I could get a standard table or what we call a super table that includes all of the filter options at the top. So, direct connections to the data. If it's correct in the source, it's correct in the report. And then secondly, the ability to do a number of different operators on each of those functions, on each of those areas of interest, whether it be total or average or margin. And then finally, the ability to drill down into all of those details. So a simple example of automation, but what does this mean in terms of finalizing your reports and then getting them out to the appropriate audience? Well, again, here we have a pretty simple income statement. This time, however, we exposed the specific account numbers, and we're showing for all of our locations. But what about the folks at specific locations, whether it be at BizNet Enterprises Corporate or Houston Admin Product Consulting or San Anselmo Admin Product Consulting? One worksheet actually includes 8 different reports on one worksheet. And it is absolutely interactive. You can see that whenever I'm changing the drop-down, our specific segment number is changing in our in another function. This function is in Excel. It's called the segment to list. That's our location list. And as with any other BizInsight function, we can choose to query the data, and that means that whenever the location is like Houston product, then bring back that location number, that segment 2 number. So I've mentioned, though, that this is one report, one worksheet, but multiple reports. Now today, no doubt you've used perhaps a VLOOKUP to do this kind of a data validation. It's a long way of saying a drop-down list. But this particular lookup is simply a matter of creating a data validation using the same BizInsight query editor. Because not only can we make tables and functions, but we can also make data validation lists, drop-down lists, and use those without having to do a VLOOKUP. We create that drop-down list, we associate it with a function so that always the plain English name for those locations is translated to the segment 2 numerical values. We can also send those out separately using a complementary process or a complementary product called BizBroadcast. It too is a load-on-demand add-in to Excel. In this instance, we are sending XLS values to an email address. We're sending HTML to a OneDrive. We're sending another to the desktop, and we're doing specifically different territories so that locations, territories, branch offices, one report, one worksheet inside a workbook of reports can be used to specifically feed a number of different and disparate locations. Again, automating the process of completing your year-end reports. So a quick review, we've shown how you can take a traditional static workbook and make it much more interactive and make it update dynamically because of direct connections to back-end data. We've shown how you can very quickly create an ad hoc report and repurpose functions for total, average, margin, and then drill down onto each of those values. And then we've also shown how one worksheet can contain a number of different reports. Within that run rate forecast, however, there is another issue that I would like to bring up, and that is the consolidation of numbers from different sources. And to do this, to illustrate this, I'll open the query editor for this specific function, and what we're showing is that we have a specific account, a specific year, a specific month, and we want the actual amount of revenue, the actual amount of sales. However, our budget comes from an entirely different source, and that is, it comes from the budget tables, which could be created in a different environment or could be maintained within Excel. And side by side, those numbers can be made part of the same report. And I have to stress again that with BizInsight 7, any number that can make its way into Excel can be used as a way of creating dynamic year-end reports. If you'd, well actually I was about to say if you'd like this sample workbook, within, well certainly by the end of the year, we're going to make this workbook and a version of the software available as a free trial for those of you who aren't using BizInsight yet. And so you'll get this workbook. As a matter of fact, you'll also get a pretty detailed getting started tutorial workbook that will be able to walk you through all of the uses of the product. So look for that soon. So we saw the benefits, or at least hopefully you saw some of the benefits of making your spreadsheets come alive. And I want to stress again, no doubt you're running a number of different systems already. However, as I mentioned earlier, our understanding of the marketplace and our polling of our customers and potential customers have said that almost all of those numbers come back to Excel eventually. And so we work in Excel. We're a complement to what you're using today. So why people use Excel? It's really pretty easy. I don't know that the number is 1 billion users, but certainly Microsoft says 750 million to 800 million users is a common business language. I work with our European partners, and it's interesting to see our software display in French and Excel, and certainly Excel can handle much more than just a few languages, 75 at the last count. And it's a presentation layer for business reporting. A lot of folks are moving to the cloud, and cloud interfaces are often called presentation layers. That's how the user interacts with the system. And we believe Excel is that presentation layer. It provides you the fonts, the formatting, all kinds of spark lines, in-cell icons, dynamic charting, page formatting, so it's very, very easy to produce your recurring standardized business reports. We did a survey with Ventana Research a few years back. You know, why do people use Excel? And as was illustrated today, being able to consolidate and summarize numbers is certainly high on the list of using Excel. It's also interesting that almost 30% use Excel to enter data into their ERP system. And you know, a number of business systems allow for uploads from Excel. That same study found that folks in finance, folks in accounting, folks in operational roles, not just spend 20 or more hours per month, but more than 20 hours a week in Excel and doing manual processes, copy, paste, clean, filter, format, finally finish the report just in time for somebody else to say, wait a minute, I've got another number here. So why go through this effort is because the information is worth the cost. And what we provide is a way to create those reports once, to be assured of the quality of your information, and then simply repeat the process on a monthly or on a yearly basis because of being directly connected to the information. We solve the biggest problems, whether it be exporting, copying, pasting, drill down, or distributing the reports. And again, this is any data that can be brought into Excel. Currently, we have more than 2,500 active companies, more than 25,000 users, 50 countries around the world. You also have my email address, and so if you'd like to post a question via email, I'd be glad to handle it from there as well. Again, thank you for attending this morning. Best wishes of the season to you, and have a very happy 2017. Goodbye now.